Hey there. Today I want to talk all about harvesting, washing, packing, and selling lettuce. So what we grow here is a mixed lettuce that we grow and sell as a cut wash lettuce. So we're not doing head lettuce, but a lot of this could be used as head lettuces as well. And a lot of market gardeners are growing Salanova, or a mixture of Salanovas. It's a pretty common lettuce to grow, especially, farmers markets and restaurants and stuff like that. But we have a different mix that I've been growing for a while now, and it just does much better in the heat. And because it's so hot here most of the year, I find that this is a better mix for me, and the customers usually like it. It's not, I think, as saleable to restaurants, but it's great for farm stand sales, farmers markets, greens boxes, CSAs, stuff like that, just because you don't have that sort of spring mix fancier look to it. But this is, for me, it's worked really well and I've gotten consistent results, so we're gonna stick with it. And I've done a lot of other videos about that. I'll leave down some links down below for some of the other videos I've done about lettuce. So what we have here is Myrrh, Cherokee, and Magenta, most of which is Myrrh. And we're gonna be, you guys can see here that the way I have it planted, it's already mixed. And that way when you harvest it, it's already mixed. And so we get a bag of lettuce for our customers. And the way I do that is I just mix the seeds ahead of time and then plant out the trays mixed and transplant them mixed. And so you get this nice variety here, just like that. So we're gonna go through harvesting and some tricks about that. We're gonna talk about washing, packaging, and pricing and all that kind of stuff. So let's get into harvesting. So we got some beautiful lettuces here, and you can see they're completely full, and you don't want to let them go bigger than this for a few reasons. One is these are planted pretty close together. These are 4 rows 6 inches apart, and they're already very crowded. And if they get any more than this, you'll get a lot of rotting and fungal stuff and stuff between the leaves. And so you want to make sure you get it early enough. Also, especially in the heat here, you don't want it getting too big because it'll start to bolt. And that's, if you guys don't know, that's when they start to stretch out and try to flower and eventually seed, and the lettuce starts getting really bitter. Another thing about harvesting lettuce is you always want to do it first thing in the morning. So this is right after we got to the farm. You want to harvest it as early as possible and just get it in the fridge if you can't wash it right away. And the reason for that is during the day it'll soften up and it'll also get more bitter. The best flavor is in the morning for sure, because if you harvest it when it's in rough shape, like how greens will get sort of more limp and stuff during the summer heat, if you harvest it at that stage, they won't rebound as nicely. So you want to make sure you get it early in the day. So we're going to use a simple harvest knife. This is a small serrated knife. I'll leave a link down below for this. It's super cheap. This is kind of what I like to use. What you want to do is you want to grab the lettuce head with, I'm a righty, so I grab the lettuce head with my left hand, and I'm going to make a cut across and pull that off in one bunch. So let me do one here. And you want to make sure that you don't cut it too low, because we want to make sure we try to get a regrowth. So there's my cut. And I'll often look around the outside, look for damage. If I have a damaged leaf or two, I'll just drop it for now and then in the bin. And so as I go through this, you can see it's pretty quick, and I'm already creating that mix in my tote. I have 2 different kinds of totes. We have them labeled field, so those are the ones that can get dirty, and then we have ones that are just clean, and those we only put clean stuff in, and that goes in the cooler. So I'm just going to go through here and get a bunch of harvesting done. This lettuce is looking amazing. You can see that you can't use the greens harvester for this, but it's pretty quick. And usually what I do is I straddle the bed and I just work my way down like this. As soon as you're done harvesting, make sure you get the totes of lettuce in the fridge. If not in the fridge, get them in the shade at least. You don't want to leave them out in the sun there, it's not good. So I'm going to get these guys in the fridge in 1 second, but I want to talk about some numbers for a second. What I like to do is I have one of these mechanical scales here, and what I do is I just put a tote on it and tear it out, and then I bring this out to the field with me, and that way when I am harvesting, I know how much I've harvested right away. And so we are packaging in 5-ounce bags, so that's about 1/3 of a pound once you factor everything else in. So let's say I want 30 bags, that would be 10 pounds. And I usually, when I was working by myself, I'd factor in 20 to 30% extra for just loss with, if a lettuce is a little bit wet and you're drying it off, or just, in terms of quality control, things like that, I would add 20. But right now we're doing about 40 to 50% extra until we get things dialed in. If we have any extra, we'll take some home, or you know, we actually donate a lot of the stuff we don't sell, so it's no problem if we have a little bit extra. Plus we have a lot here to harvest. So for example, like I just said, if we want 30 bags of lettuce, and that would be 10 pounds, we probably harvest like 14. So I'll just send the crew out and say, hey, get me 14 pounds of lettuce, get me 20 pounds, whatever the number is. And that's how we do that. So I'm gonna do some more harvesting and then get this tote into the fridge. All right, so I just harvested about 25 pounds and it went right into the fridge. And I can't stress this enough. When you're harvesting, especially in the summer, harvest as early as you can in the day and get it right in the fridge. That will make sure that the quality is the best possible and that it'll last the longest. As soon as it starts to get wilty in the afternoon, it's not good, or the flavor also changes. It'll get more bitter during the day. So you wanna harvest as early as you can. Now that that's all harvested and tucked away, I'm gonna go through and clean up the bed. This only takes a few minutes and it's really important. Let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm gonna come through here and just clean this up. All these leaves that are touching the ground are not good enough quality to sell. Some of them are actually kind of dried up and rotted or whatever. But I wanna make sure that I come through and I just take all the leaves around the base of the plant off. What this does is a couple things. It keeps those from rotting, and it also makes sure you have more airflow around the plant to keep them healthy. So I just come through very quickly and do this. Makes a big difference if you're trying to get a second cut. This time of year, I'll probably get one more cut. Middle of summer, I often don't even try for a second cut. They just, they bolt too quickly. It's just, lettuce is not a summer crop. So we're just trying to get that first really nice cut, and that's about it. All right, so I got this cleaned up for the most part, and this is kind of what you're looking for when you're done. It only takes a few minutes to go through the bed. It's totally worth it. Otherwise, those leaves on the ground will rot, they'll get wet, they'll get stuff growing in them and bugs in there, and so you want to have a good airflow. One thing I want to point out is when you're starting to cut the lettuce, you don't want to cut it too low, and you also want to cut it straight across, because if you cut it at a slant or if you cut it too low, you might cut it in a place where it'll keep it from growing again. So you really want to try to get another cut, and so you want to try to get it basically pretty uniform. If you cut it too low, you'll see it just won't regrow, or it'll grow back really, really weak. And so I'm gonna take over the bed that we harvested from last week, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so here's some lettuces that we harvested from last week. You can see some of these, you can see where it was cut and where it's regrowing. So this is about a week's worth of growth. I bet you might get a harvest out of this next week, we'll see. So these are all, hopefully you guys can see this, they're cut and then they're regrowing out of the middle, so that's awesome. Here's one that did not do so well after the cut. I think it was cut a little bit low. This one's dying, but you can see if you cut them well, they will regrow. Every successive cut or harvest, the quality goes down a little bit usually, especially in the summer. As I said, you may not get more than one harvest in the summer, but you always try. And then you get to a point in the year where you know that's just gonna be one harvest. But if you make a nice cut that's not too low, you get a nice regrowth. So I just wanna show you what that looks like. So I know some of you guys might wanna know what I'm doing with the waste from the lettuce. It goes in the compost bin. Now, at home, I would feed this to my chickens, but we don't have chickens here, so we're just gonna compost this. We are in the process of getting our compost bit set up, all up and running. So when we get this all dialed in, we'll make a video, but it gets composted, so if you're curious. All the lettuce has been harvested now, and it's in the cooler, but I just took out the first bin here, and I've done a lot of videos about washing before, but I'll give you a little bit more rundown. We have a simple greens washing station here. I'll leave a link down below for this build for when I did it at my house, but it's essentially the same thing. So we're gonna bubble it, we're gonna spin it, and then we're gonna dry it. All right, so after it's done spinning, put it on the screen here. Just spread it out and turn the fans on, and then periodically you just come and sort of fluff it up like this, and you can get a sense for how it's drying just by feeling it, mixing up the more wet leaves with the drier leaves. You want to make sure that you don't over dry it, because if it gets wilty, then you're destroying the lettuce. You want to make sure you're preserving quality and shelf life as much as possible. So we just turn these fans on and do this for a couple minutes. Every day is different depending on the temperature and the humidity and how wet things are. So you just have to go by feel. So that's what we're gonna do here. So this is just about done, and it takes frequent turning because the stuff on the top will dry out faster, and you want to make sure it doesn't wilt. So really, especially with lettuce, the big thing is, as I keep saying, is shelf life and stability, and the way you're going to get that is keeping it cold, getting the field heat off of it right away, washing it, and then drying it. And the extra step after spinning I think makes a huge difference. If you get that last little bit of water off, and then you bag it in a sealed container and put it back in the fridge, this lettuce will last for probably 2 weeks. And the customers will definitely notice for sure. And they're also getting it, like this is gonna go for sale today, so people are gonna get super fresh lettuce, and we'll get it nice and chilled down as soon as we get this packaged up. And this part of the process is actually very important. You might think of this as sort of like an entry-level job, and it can be, but it does take some training because you have to realize that this stage is your last defense in regards to quality. So the person that's bagging is going to be looking through it and taking out leaves that aren't good, and making sure that the product is how you like it. So you want to make sure that that person knows exactly what you're looking for. Otherwise, you're going to be rebagging and more handling of the product. You want to handle as little as possible. So let me show you bagging. So I'm going to need a couple things for bagging. I need bags, I need a scale, and then this is a bag taper, which is awesome. I'll leave links for everything down below so you guys can check it out. I don't know if these are the best bags. These are just what I've been using. And we're going to be doing 5-ounce bags, which is a pretty standard bag size like in a supermarket. So that's what we're going to go for. And we'll talk about pricing later, but let me show you how this works. I'm just using a kitchen scale right now, and we have scales here, we just don't have a power cord for them, so we need to get that. So this bag weighs between like 0.2 and 0.3 ounces. So I usually bag between like 5.3 and 5.5, even 5.6 is okay. You don't want to spend a lot of time like trying to get exactly in that range. Like if you go a couple tenths of an ounce over, it's totally fine. You just want to make sure the customers are getting at least what they think they're getting. So if you're selling 5-ounce bags, put a little bit more. So that's what I'm gonna do here. And pretty simple procedure here. Just get the lettuce in the bag. Trying to keep it as fluffy as possible. So that was 6.2, so I'm gonna take a little bit out. There you go, 5.5, we'll go with that. And so the key here with the bagging is that I try to keep as much air in the bag as possible. So I hold it up like this, I hold it near the top, and then I twist it. And so that gets it nice and tight at the top, and you keep that air in there, and that keeps the greens from getting squished. And then I take the taper here, and the reason why I use this is because it's super inexpensive per bag. And I just push it down like that, and you get a nice bag of lettuce. And that's how I bag it up. And then I have a bin right over here to put them in. So I'm just gonna do this a bunch more times. Well, that's all the logistics to harvesting, washing, and packing lettuce. And I want to talk about pricing. And for us, I don't think of this mix as a great mix to sell to restaurants, just in terms of what they're looking for generally. But this is a great mix to sell to, through a farm stand, farmer's market, CSA, that kind of direct sales kind of stuff. And as I said, we're putting them in 5-ounce bags. We're selling them for $4. And that may seem high or low depending on where you are, but context is everything, and you have to know your market, but that's what we're getting for it. So essentially we're getting $12 a pound, but there's a lot of cost in small packaging. There's a lot more labor. You have to buy more bags, all that kind of stuff. So, but that's what we're getting for it. And I just want to share everything I can with you guys. We're wrapping up most of the harvest already this morning. We still have a little bit more greens to wash. We definitely got some beautiful green onions this week. I did a whole video, I know this is not lettuce related, but I did a whole video about green onions. I'll put a link down below for that too if you want to check it out. Great summer crop as well. So that's pretty much everything I can share about harvesting, washing, packing, and selling lettuce. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. There's obviously some variation depending on what kind of lettuce you're growing and who you're selling it to, but hopefully this will give you a good start and some stuff that can help you. So thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.